Hi, welcome to Skilled Pastor, where we offer practical advice for better ministry. My name is Nieves, and today I want to talk to you about how to preach without notes. Now, this seems like a skill that only a few people can do really well, but I really believe that anyone can do this. You don't have to preach with notes, although I'll be honest with you, I do preach with notes, but more often than not, it's just as a reference. I don't have my head stuck in the notes. Many times I already know, and I could preach the sermon without the notes. I just have it there. I don't know, it's a safety blanket kind of thing, but preaching without notes is a great thing to do. It does allow you to communicate better. It does make you appear a little more real, right? Like, it's not just something I studied. This means something to me. So the ability to preach without notes, I think, is a great ability to be able to do this. And I totally believe that this is something that you can do. I believe that almost anyone can preach without notes. If you can preach, you can probably preach without notes. So I hope that you would listen in and pay attention to what I'm about to share with you, because this is going to be gold. If you're a preacher, if you're a beginner preacher, especially, this is going to be gold for you. All right, well, let's get started. The first thing I want you to know is that when you're preaching without notes, you need to have studied your passage well, or your topic, right? Maybe you're an expositor of the Word of God and you're going through a passage, or maybe you're a topical type of preacher. You need to know that topic really well. You need to study it well. And what do I mean by studying well? Well, what I mean is, what you need to do is that you need to be simplifying this material so that you understand it. You need to internalize this. So as you're studying, seek to get clear, very, very clear on what you're trying to say. Seek to get clarity so that you understand it, so that you can explain it. And the reality is that when you're preaching by memory, if you will, or if you're preaching without notes, what you're doing is you're actually not memorizing a manuscript, but rather you're just speaking what you know. When you know something, you can just speak it. You don't need notes. You don't need notes to tell me about a childhood story of yours, because you know the story. You've internalized it. So when you study, you want to make sure that you are internalizing this, that it's becoming a part of you. So seek clarity. And when you get stuck, because there will be those times as you're studying that you get stuck and you're like, oh, I'm not really understanding this. And the temptation there is to do what? Well, let me move on to something else. No, don't move on to something else. Go ahead, do the hard work, keep studying, keep gaining clarity on the subject, because that's what you need. And you'll find that in those moments, that's really where you're going to find really great nuggets of your sermons, right? Those are going to be just vital for you. So study well. That's my first piece of advice. You need to internalize this thing. The second thing is that you need to get a central proposition. What is a central proposition? Your central proposition is basically your main point, right? So for example, let's say the main point of your sermon is that obedience is better than sacrifice. And that's just what you want to say. Like, if you said nothing else, that's what you want people to walk away with. That's your central proposition. Now, along with that central proposition, you're going to have all these other points, right? Just supporting these points. And by the way, I did this on purpose, and you'll see what I'm talking about in just a minute. But this is your central proposition. Obedience is better than sacrifice, for example, right? So now you have 3 or 4 supporting points. Why do you believe this is true? Well, I believe it's true because of A, exhibit A. I believe it's true because of exhibit B. And these are your points. Exhibit A, B, C, and D, if you will. You've got your supporting points. Okay, so first you've got your main point, supporting 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now let's talk about those. This is what you want to do, and this is really the meat of everything I want to tell you here. You want to get those points and get one keyword out of those points. One keyword, and try not to make those points too long, because otherwise it's not going to be helpful. But get one keyword, and that keyword out of that point, you're going to visualize yourself spatially in the room where you're going to be preaching. Now, the good thing is that most rooms have 4 corners, right? So you have 1, 2, 3, 4. So here's what I want to say. You get that central proposition. That's the one thing you know really well, okay? Central proposition. Then point 1 will be from, the first left-hand corner. You visualize that keyword in that corner, right? You visualize point 1 is in left side right there. And you visualize that and you make a mental note of what that word is. Then you put point 2 in the right hand corner, right? And you visualize it there. Then you have point 3 on your left corner here behind you, and then point 4, if you have a point 4, you put it back here. So now what you're doing is, as you're preaching and as you're developing this central proposition, you're going to say, well, I believe that obedience, or the word of God teaches that obedience is better than sacrifice because of, guess what? Point 1, right? And you've already visualized it. You've already know it. You've committed it to memory. So this is so important. You committed that keyword there, that keyword there, that keyword there, that keyword here. So now you know this. Now you know this topic and you're ready to discuss it at any time. So when you're preparing to preach without notes, the first thing is that you're studying it. Okay, that's the first part of it. You're studying it. You're getting that clarity as you're studying it. Number 2 is that you're getting that central proposition. And when you get that central proposition, then you're kind of placing your points, your supporting points on each corner of the room. Now I've got those, right? Now I've got them all here. They're with me. I'm ready to go. I don't need notes because my entire room is a note, right? This is how I'm going to remember everything that I wanted to talk about. So now I've got it all here. So the good thing is that I've internalized this all. So even if I kind of fumble a little bit, nobody knows this. Nobody knows that I meant, point 2 to be point 1 or whatever. And by the way, that almost never happens. And let me tell you, there's such a dynamic. I'll tell you a quick experience here. When we first started our church, we needed to set up and tear down all the time. So it happened only a handful of times, thankfully, where, I went to set up the equipment and everything. And just as we're getting ready to start the service, I remember, oh my gosh, I left my notes at home. But you know what? Because I had prepared this way, I was able to preach without the notes. I already knew what I was going to say. I already knew what the topic was going to be, how I was going to develop that topic. And it was very simple, a little nerve-wracking. I'm not going to lie to you about that. But you know what? It was like a good nervousness. And, to be honest, those, according to what people came back and told me, those were some of my best, just being able to free myself and being able to speak directly to the audience. And this whole time they're thinking I'm just speaking off the cuff, and I'm really not. I have my notes. It's just they're visually all over the room. So you need to do that. And I tell you, this is going to be so key. So try that out for your next sermon. And the last thing, this is probably, again, one of the most important parts, is that you need to practice. You need to practice this. What do you need to practice? You need to practice where everything is. You need to practice those notes and where it is in your sanctuary, in your space. You need to practice that. Oftentimes, I found myself just practicing, and then as I'm practicing, I'm like, oh, what was point number 2? What was that word? What was that key word? And then I can go back to my notes. Oh, that was the word. And you know what? That makes it even easier because now I've really committed it to memory. So it's in those tough spots where you face those difficult moments. That's where you have to press in, because that's where you're going to be able to memorize and internalize this thing. So I hope that this has been helpful to you. I know that this kind of information has been helpful to me. And if it has, go ahead and please like this video, share it with someone, and subscribe to this channel. That lets me know that you like it, that you enjoy this material, and that we should be putting out some more of this. So thank you so much for watching this video. Please check out the description. I always try to leave some freebies in there for you. So check out some of those links and be a part of our community here at Skilled Pastor. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.